This video is going to show you how to be your own best coach in between your voice lessons, or if you're not working with a voice coach. The first thing you need to know is that there are 3 systems we have control over as singers. And these are the systems that any voice teacher is listening for when they're hearing you sing, so they know where to make adjustments. These 3 systems are the breath, the vocal cords, and the vocal tract. Now, these 3 systems are all interrelated. If you make a change in any one of these systems, it's going to affect all the other systems, which is why we can actually get improvement in the voice no matter where we start. You just want to try to get the most bang for your buck depending on the change that you make. Number 1, the breath. So here are the things you're listening and feeling for when it comes to breath. Ask yourself, am I taking a low, deep breath, or is it high and shallow? We want it to be low and deep and relaxed. Is the amount of air you're sending up consistent? Are you getting an even flow? One thing that will also help you hear and feel for that is, are you able to make a legato sound, or are you cutting off in between notes and getting a more staccato or interrupted sound? Are you blowing too hard, or are you not blowing enough air? That's another thing that can really affect what's happening in the vocal folds, because if you're blowing too much air, the vocal folds have to work harder to keep the vocal cords together. And if you're not blowing enough, then sometimes they get pressed because there's not enough air coming through, or you back off on the vocal folds and you get a really weak breathy sound and you can't get any power. So you just want to work on having a nice, even stream of airflow. Number 2, the vocal cords, what's happening in the vocal folds. Cords and folds, same thing. There are 2 different aspects I want you to feel and listen for. The first one is, are they pressing together too hard, or are they not closing enough? So if they're not coming together enough, you're getting a breathy sound. You might even be running out of breath because you're just not getting any resistance to the air, or you're pressing them too hard together, which is cutting the airflow off and making kind of a harsher sound wave, and it doesn't feel great over time if you're pressing the cords together too hard, because you're basically slamming those vocal cords together, and over time that can not feel so good and possibly even cause injury. Now, if you're hearing like a grinding sound, that's often that there isn't enough airflow. You might even want to experiment with, well, maybe I need to go a little breathier because my cords are like grinding together. There's not enough airflow. So if you think a little breathy and you're giving it plenty of air, then they can get a nicer, cleaner vibration. So that's the breathy versus press sound. Then this is also vocal cords. You want to be listening for thin versus thick, because often I'll get singers come in and they want to get this stronger, more belty sound, but they're using a really thin vocal fold. Now it's coming together and it's not breathy, but it's like a head voice configuration, and they're wanting to get a more chesty sound quality out of that. And instead they're just pressing a more head voice, thinner chord configuration together, and you don't get as many overtones, so you're just not going to get that depth and that big belty sound that you're looking for with chest voice qualities. You want to be able to feel and hear the difference in your own voice as to whether you're using a thin or a thick vocal cord configuration. It's easier to find the thickness possibly in the chest voice because we use a thicker vocal fold automatically down in the chest voice if we're using it in the right way. So, and then you can take that same feel in the vocal folds up high, mom, 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 and get that more spoken sound as opposed to mom, 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 where I just went to a more heady, thin place and it didn't have that consistency through the range. So those are the things to listen and feel for when it comes to the vocal cords. Breathy versus pressed, thin versus thick. So then that creates the sound wave that is resonated by the vocal tract. The vocal tract is primarily controlled by our vowels, and we want to make sure we're optimizing the shape of the vowels to support the kind of sound that we're going for. The shape of your vowel can influence the thinness or thickness of the vocal cords, which is kind of amazing. And then, as we know, this can affect the airflow too. So if you're going for a more head voice sound, a closed vowel is going to be just fine, a more thin sound. But if you want a more chest voice quality, you're going to probably need to use more open vowels. If you haven't already, download my cheat sheet to better singing, because I go over all these ways to modify and optimize your vowels. It helps you be able to sing vowels up higher in your range, because we just can't sing them the same way we do when we speak them in our chest voice. So these are the things that you are listening for so that you can make your own adjustments and be your own best coach. And you might need a voice coach to start out with to be able to learn how to perceive those qualities in your own voice and know what thick versus thin feels like and how to even make those changes on your own. But the more you can know your own voice and how to make these adjustments and changes for yourself, the better you will be able to practice in between your lessons and ultimately be able to help yourself when you don't have a voice teacher right there to help you. All right, go out there and do it. I believe in you.